Uh, Hello everyone. In today's webinar, I'm going to be talking about our youth programs in the district. I'll be giving you an overview of what's been happening in general for youth programs over the last year, and give you a glimpse of some of the new resources that we've been developing to help market the youth programs. And then we'll talk to each of the youth chairs directly to see what's happening in their programs. But before we start, I'll obviously say that the youth programs have been heavily impacted by COVID-19 because all of the programs are in-person programs and we're unable to do those for the foreseeable future. But I think this presents us with an opportunity to reflect on the quality of our programs, and it gives clubs time to plan for what programs they're going to integrate into the future, and to plan how to best use the youth programs to their advantage in the coming years. And so previously, we've got quite a few good youth programs in this district, but they've been operating in silos. They've all been independent of each other, and there's been not much collaboration between the programs, which is okay because all of the programs have been doing quite well in themselves, but there's been none of that cross collaboration. So when I became youth chair, the past district governor Adrian and now district governor Mark asked me and all of the youth chairs to get the youth programs operating as a single connected network. This is so that we can get participants doing more of the youth programs, get people doing one program and then the other one. And so the clubs can use this network of youth programs to better connect with their schools and their community. I'll explain a bit more on this in a sec. So we've created a number of resources to help clubs do this and make it easier for them to promote the youth programs to the public. First of all, this is the youth programs pathway. It has all of the youth programs laid out in order of the age of the participants. So if a student has completed one program on this pathway, it'll make them more likely, and they can see the next programs along the pathway and make them more likely to want to do the next ones. Encourage them to do more and be more participative in our programs. Having all of the programs laid out and connected is a resource for trying to get support for the youth programs from people outside of Rotary. So for example, I've sat in meetings with school principals where we've been pitching an Interact club to them, and we've shown them this pathway, and then the principals and teachers become much more supportive of the idea of us selling them our youth programs, because they can see that Rotary has a comprehensive set of programs to support young people, and it has a strong commitment to learning and development, and that there'll be lots of opportunities for their students over the future beyond just that Interact club. And so that was really helpful in getting that Interact club over the line. And so this concept could be used to market Rotary and our programs to other community groups and to schools like sports clubs or other groups. We've also put this pathway on a flyer. This is an A4 fold out flyer with a little blurb on each of the programs. We do have a pretty good stock of these currently, and we were actually intending on distributing a few of them out to each of the clubs at the Bendigo District Conference, but obviously that couldn't have happened. So when we're all meeting in person again, I will distribute these flyers out to each of the clubs. I've also got this quite large board. It's a physical board that I'm going to take to each of the youth programs. It's got flyers for all of the programs along the bottom of it, as well as that big A4 fold out flyer. And so this will be at all of the youth program events. And so we had it at a presentation night of the Junior Community Awards. And then there were people, students and their parents, taking flyers for the next programs so that they could be more involved in the future. And we had it at the Ryler conference. And so hopefully we'll get the Ryler participants doing more of the programs as well. And then I've got a website. Just try and get to it. This is a brand new website we've got. It only went live 2 days ago, so I don't think any of you have seen it yet. It's got the pathway, and then each of these buttons are clickable to take you to more of the programs. So if you click on Interact, it tells you all about Interact, gives you a list of the current Interact clubs in our district. And over time, I'm going to fill that with lots of photos and videos of the projects that the Interact clubs have been doing. And you can click on all of the programs to go to more. And over time, when the in-person programs are resuming, there'll be links there for the students to register for each of those programs. And so I'll just point out that this, the website and the flyer and the other resources are targeted at the students and their parents. It's a marketing tool aimed at that target. It's not necessarily a Rotary membership drive. It's just designed to market the youth programs themselves. That could be a bonus side effect, but the objective of these tools is just to market the youth programs themselves. So now I'm going to check in on each of the programs individually. I think I've got Josie, if Josie could unmute herself. Josie looks after all of the in-school programs. So first up is Early Act. So Josie, what is an Early Act club?
Well, the Early Act Club is for primary schools and it's for all year levels. They set up a committee and they have a president, a secretary and all the other service committees. Their projects can be wide, mainly one for the school and one for the community. So with the teacher, they organise and help prepare for these projects during the year.
And we don't have any early clubs just yet, but we're establishing a few at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, we've got one school that was almost to go ahead in April this year, March, April this year, Pakenham Springs. But due to COVID, we've had to put that on hold, which was a shame. But they actually got their, they already had their leaders already set up. So they all applied for the position, which was quite interesting. Yeah, so they were quite ready to go. But unfortunately.
Something for us to look forward to when we can resume.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
So also in primary schools is the Junior Community Awards. What's that about?
The Junior Community Awards is for grade 6 only. They all receive the diary. You can actually see a diary there. And in that diary, they have to fill out, there are about 4 components of this diary. And it roughly goes for about probably 2 terms. They have to fill this diary. So it goes from community, the arts, it's actually discovering themselves as well, learning new skills. So it's like a 10-week program. They have to fill in this diary over 10 weeks. That's basically what that is.
And the Community Awards is quite widespread currently in our district. There's something
It is very widespread in our district. There's probably, what did I say in the report? About 30 to 40 clubs already, but also it's nationally, so it's all over Australia, and I don't have the figures for that. But yeah, it's a very good program. It's been running now for what, 25 years, I think.
And so these diaries, they're already produced, so it's pretty easy for a club to pick up the diary and
yes,
the school.
Yes, it is. You just get in contact with Lorna Hawkey or John Butler, and they will actually send out the diaries to you, and the information. There's also an information booklet. The diaries cost about $6 each that the club can buy. They can either support the diaries to the school, but technically what Lorna was saying, that the students actually buy the diary, which is $6, so they know that they have to look after it over the period of time that it takes them to fill it in. So they have an ownership about the diary as well. So it's up to the club whether they want to sponsor that $6 for the diary, or the school either pays for it, there's another option there, or the student actually pays for it. So it's not a huge outlay for the program.
And so those are the primary school programs. And then for high schools, we have Interact clubs. So tell us about those.
Interact Club is very similar to Early Act and very similar to all the other actually clubs. So they're basically for secondary schools. They have president, secretary, a board. They have a sponsor and produce 2 programs or 3 programs a year. One's for community school and the world. So it can be like fun runs for the, they can organise a school fun run or they can do a community fun run. There's been lots of different programs or projects that they can provide.
And we've got quite a few, well, there's a handful of Interact clubs in the district already, but again, just before COVID hit, we were about to sign up a few more, weren't we?
Yes, we had taken up, but we also, we have got a club which started during COVID. So that is the St. Margaret's and Berwick Grammar. So we're quite proud of that. And that's been sponsored by the Rotary Club of Berwick. So it's going quite well.
And so Josie's had quite a lot of success signing up new schools for this, for all of these youth programs, particularly ones that have done the Junior Community Awards for a while. After they've had success with that, we've then been able to get Early Act and Interact clubs introduced to their schools already. And Josie's working on a manual for clubs to pick up, to teaches them how to establish an Interact club and how to get an Early Act club going. So if you do want to establish one of these clubs in schools, Josie's your person to talk to. She knows all the things. And yeah, anything else, Josie?
No, that's about it. No, but yeah, I've got the Interact handbook, which is which I've got a copy of. I'm working on that. But yeah, if anyone wants any information, they can absolutely call me or email me. That's fine. We'll help them.
Next is a program called Ripen. Ripen currently doesn't have a chairperson, so we're looking for one. If you know someone, that'd be great. But Ripen is sort of like Ryla, but for younger people. It's a 3-day camp for roughly 14 to 17-year-olds that teaches them to build confidence and self-awareness, things like that. As I said, the position is vacant. We really would we've had great success with Ripen in the past, and we really would like to get that going again. So if you know someone that would like to chair that, you'll get all sorts of support from me and the district and the other youth program chairs. So we'll make it as easy as possible for you. But yeah, we need someone to take on that role. Then we have the Youth Exchange Program. Is Barry Rogers. Barry, you there?
Yes, Rob. How you going?
Not too bad.
Good.
So tell us about Youth Exchange.
Okay, so Youth Exchange, from our point of view, is a 12-month program. There are short-term exchanges other districts run. We're not big enough to do that yet. It's a 12-month, well, 356 to 362 days in another country or here in Australia. Students need to be 15 to 18 years old. The critical thing from an Australian point of view is that the students must return and complete another year of school to be eligible for the program. So we would never send a student who's in year 12 because they have to come back as part of our licensing requirements. And they go to a range of countries, as probably everybody knows these days. So the thing that we really focus on most of all is language acquisition. It's fine to send a young person to New Zealand or America or Canada. We think the challenge of acquiring a language as well is a significant part of the culture. If you've ever heard someone who can speak Finnish or Swedish or Japanese and sat there in absolute awe of that young person's capacity, you'll be stunned. Quite often, the young people come back and that can be used as a credit in schooling. My own daughter, for instance, spent a year in German-speaking Switzerland in 2008. She now teaches German in a major Melbourne secondary college because that kindled her love for German.
And like, apart from the skills they get, which is really great, but they also have really fantastic experiences, like meeting other people from all other countries.
Yeah, absolutely, Cookie. We borrowed this quote from the Rotary Youth Exchange Australia website, and it was just so perfect that I didn't even bother trying to find another one. And the photo that you can see there are our inbound and outbound students in December last year. One of the scary things that we never think about is kids coming into Australia have no idea of water safety. Half of the girls that came in last year had never seen a beach physically. So we ran a water safety and surfing camp, and it was the funniest activity that you've ever seen. So that's our little group of Brazilian, Finnish, I've forgotten, American, German assorted young people, and our outbound girls as well. So really changes their lives significantly.
Yeah. We've got a few other photos here.
There's our outbound girls on the left. Sammy is in Sweden, Arian's in Japan, Georgia went to Brazil, Chloe's in Finland. These are our inbound girls. So Andrea from America, Livia from Brazil, Kia from Finland, Julia from Germany, and Martina from Italy. Martina goes home tonight. The left-hand activity there is a challenge that we set for them, and it was for them to learn to pull their heads in and be part of a team. So they were given 25 sticks of spaghetti and sticky tape and told to make a tower, and the tallest tower won. And watching dominant personalities, which exchange students tend to be, learn to work together was really fascinating and really valuable. And of course, the one on the right is everybody at Gumbaya Park following one of our camps.
Yeah. I think we've got a video here, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, this is lovely. So I won't introduce it. Let's just play it, Rob, and then we'll go from there.
We're all exchange students from these countries, and we all pronounce things differently. Nike,
Nike, Nike,
Nike,
Nike,
Adidas,
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 Adidas, Adidas,
Ferrari,
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 Ferrari, Ferrari,
ambulance,
Krankenwagen,
ambulancia,
Ambulanza, Ambulancia,
pasta,
Nudeln,
macaron,
Pasta, Pasta,
mozzarella,
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 Mozzarella, Mozzarella,
sauna.
What?
Bitch, what?
Sauna.
Oh my god.
Sauna.
So that was at the rebound camp this year, where our students who'd been overseas for the last 12 months joined us, and they're the inbound girls, and they discovered that they have different words for the same thing, and they made that video completely unprompted and sent it to me, and I think it's a real delight and tells us a lot about how people from different cultures can learn to get together.
So now, obviously, with COVID-19, that's impacted travel quite a bit. We've had to send some students back early, and some have come back home early.
Yeah, we had one of our outbounds come back early. She was in Brazil, and increasingly she and her parents felt that Brazil wasn't a good place to be. And we said that the decision was primarily to be that of the parents and the student, that we weren't going to impose stay or return on those families and young people, that they had to take the lead. In the case of the young woman in Brazil, it was no, time to come home. We still have one in Finland, one in Sweden, and one in Japan. And of course, the one in Japan has just lived through those incredibly scary floods in the city of Gero, which is where she lives, with landslides and mudslides. So we've still got 3 overseas out of the 4 that we sent originally, because we're quite a small cohort this year. In terms of the students who came in to Australia, the young American woman went home, the German young woman went home, because it was felt safer to do that. She and her parents in each case decided time to go. The other 3 stayed, and they've completed or are completing their exchange today. But for the future, the big issue is that there will be no students going out in January, because we'd need to have already selected them and be doing training camps, and that's physically not possible. There'll be no students coming in July, because we've got no confidence whatsoever that it will be safe to bring young people in July. That's even assuming that the aeroplanes are in the air. And we don't expect that we'll have anybody going out in January 2022, because that selection would happen next year, and we have no confidence that's going to happen. So we're on a real pause, which from a personal point of view, I don't mind because it gives me time to scratch myself. So the work we're doing, Rob's put this slide up, which is absolutely perfect. We've identified we've now lived through every part of the youth exchange cycle, and we're all new to it. And we've identified all of the roles. And this is a slide that we might get Carol Crew perhaps to email around to club presidents, because it talks about the roles on the committee and the amount of work that we'd really like to get out there. The obvious ones are at the top, but just the job of receiving applications. The application is a 20-page document. It has a letter from a doctor, it has a letter from a dentist, it has a reference from the school, and lots of other things. And coordinating all of that to make sure it's right is a massive job. Working with the inbound clubs and the sponsoring clubs. And I noticed a couple of our club people are online, and I really want to offer a huge thank you to all of the clubs that have sponsored students and hosted students. One of the Traralgon clubs, Marie McPherson, was the president last year. They've got no history of youth exchange. They ended up sponsoring a student to go to Japan, to Sweden. And in the process, they acquired a brand new member of their club, because he said, if I want my daughter to go, I'd better join the club. So for me, there's that huge connection that Rob's talking about, where youth exchange is just one of the steps along that pathway. It fits in so perfectly with Interact, with Ripen, and of course with Ryler, and then on to Interact. And then guess what? We get Rotarians if we keep track of our alumni. That's probably enough from me, Rob, I think, isn't it?
Oh, you can keep going if you like.
I think I've run out of words. So I think the two crucial things that we would say, youth exchange is actually controlled by the district, but our licensing authority is the Victorian Government's VRQA, Victorian Regulation and Qualifications Authority, and they give us a license to send students on student youth exchange. If we don't comply with their rules, we lose our license. And it's not just our district, it's the whole of Victoria. So we're significantly under the control of that government department around child safe and things like that. I have no objection whatsoever to that, but it is an additional layer of work that we've got to do. And we really need to keep track of that and manage it very, very carefully, which again is one of the reasons why we need the committee. So if you just talked about protection and compliance, for our 5 inbound students this year being placed in 5 clubs, I ended up with a list of 140 people who would have connection with those 5 young people. And I needed, excuse me, I needed to make sure every one of those people had a working with children check, a Form 3 and everything else. And that was 140 people.
Yeah.
So it's a massive amount of work. And so for a short period of time, that's almost a full-time job that we need to be managing. Training is just as crucial.
Obviously, all of our youth programs are very reliant on the youth protection and insurance. So I would encourage you to watch the insurance webinar that will be on YouTube. But youth exchange particularly is really heavily in that. And Barry does have quite a job to do. And so if you would like to help Barry on his committee, there are lots of jobs you can see to do. So please get in touch.
Thanks, Rob.
Next, we have Di Harrison. Di Harrison is the new chair. She's been on MUNA for a few years, but this year she's taken over as the chair. Tell us about MUNA, Di.
Okay, thanks very much, Rob. First of all, I'd really like to acknowledge the work of the MUNA committee, and under the chair of John Caruana. He held the position for 10 years, so I've got rather big shoes to try and fill. But John will be working with me in the background so I don't stuff up all his good work. But we have a fabulous MUNA committee where people from the Rotary clubs of Traralgon and Casey, together with a sprinkling of Rotarians from other district clubs who really make MUNA happen. So our committee meetings usually start towards the end of the year, and I'm hoping to gather the crew together in about September, and we'll just plan together and just see how we can make Muna happen. We actually left cancelling it till very late because we really wanted to run Muna, but the government regulations kicked in, and so it was really quite impossible. But there on the screen you see the photo of how we set it up. There's a lot of work to try and make it emulate like the General Assembly, and it's quite impressive when we have the opening ceremony with all the flags coming in and the kids wearing their school uniforms. So there's another couple of examples of what it looks like. So Muna is open to students in year 10 and 12, and there's lots of benefits for encouraging students to participate. They gain an awareness of the United Nations General Assembly, and they also gain a deeper understanding of the country that they represent in the Assembly, and most importantly, they gain insights into international diplomacy and ways to respond to pressing humanitarian issues. And the clear objective is to encourage young people to learn respect and tolerance for people of all cultures, races, religions, and nationalities. So on a personal level, what I see at Muna is that students have a real growth in their self-confidence and leadership skills. They practice their debating and public speaking skills, and there's lots of really talented students who model how to do it, so there's an opportunity for growth. And they socialise with like-minded students, and many form long-lasting friendships. So it's a hectic weekend. Muna's conducted over at the Phillip Island Adventure Resort. We were over at Forest Edge, but we decided to move it in a little bit closer to where a lot of secondary schools are located within a reasonable distance of Phillip Island. And one of the spin-offs of that is, of course, we now have great support from the Rotary Club of Phillip Island San Remo, which is not something that we had thought about. So there's been a real positive spin-off from that. So they arrive on the Friday night, and they check in, and we have a practice session, and it's formally opened on the Saturday morning and closed after the final debate on Sunday. And a total of 6 resolutions are debated, with diplomatic notes circulated to enlist the support of bloc alliances. It all happens in Muna. And bribes occur in various forms, and they're often very entertaining. So it sounds like hard work, but there's actually a lot of entertaining moments throughout the Assembly. Prior to closing the Assembly, presentations are made to the winning team, the best national costume, and the highly sought after Peace Award. So a special Saturday night evening event is organised to promote Rotary to the Muna participants, and this is where we've been actively cross-pollinating the other youth programs, such as the Youth Exchange Program, Barry, and the National Youth Science Forum, Interact, and Rotaract, and Ryla. And we had Rob there speaking to the students the last time we held the Assembly, and Rob really inspired some people to join Rotaract. So that was a really positive experience, and Rob did a great job. Muna is a great project. Does cost a bit. We try and keep our costs down. So to send a delegation of 2 students, they're sponsored by Rotary Club, and this year it was going to be $795. So that covers their accommodation, their food, and for the whole entire weekend. And we send out letters of expression of interest, or letters to inform all Rotary clubs in the district and every secondary school in the district about Muna, and invite them to submit an expression of interest. we aim to have at least 26 teams, so that's 52 students to fill the assembly and to have enough countries to be able to cover 6 resolutions, so that there's equal opportunities for all countries to participate, because they have to be able to stand up and debate in order to earn points from the adjudicators. So those resolutions are chosen by the district MUNA committee, and they're put up on the website for the students to start working on at least 4 to 6 weeks outside of the actual MUNA. And one of the things that we've implemented in the last couple of years is workshops about 2 weeks before, or 2 to 3 weeks before, and that helps kick along those that might be not as enthused as others, and we give them some insight as to what we're expecting of them when they're at MUNA. So they're not wasting their time, they're not wasting the club sponsorship money, and they're out there to have a really positive experience. So we do rely on having close connections with schools, and we really try and help match up Rotary clubs with secondary schools, and that we have a counsellor who's usually a teacher. We're tending to really push having teachers as counsellors rather than Rotarians, because there's a duty of care element in there, and so and also youth protection is really kicking in as far as MUNA is concerned as well. So we're really trying to draw the teachers in, and also promote Rotary within the schools. So by having the teachers involved, it's another avenue of just letting others know what we're doing in Rotary and with our youth programs. So it's a great opportunity to market. So I think that's about all I need to say about MUNA. I have been in it, would have been my 8th year this year, and so looking forward to meeting up with my friends in the MUNA committee and seeing how we can present MUNA in May. I'm not hopeful that we'll be able to do the face-to-face MUNA, but never say never, and keep your options open, and I think we'll try and do something so that we have contact with these amazing young people. So thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Di. Yeah, MUNA really is a great program. Like, if you've never seen it before, you can't really understand it until you've seen it in person, and
Yeah.
you do get a sense for how much fun the kids are having and the experiences they're getting. So I would encourage everyone to definitely get involved with MUNA. Next, I've got Steve Daly, is the NYSF chair for our district. Steve, you on?
Yeah, good morning, Rob, and thank you very much for getting everything organised and for putting on this morning. The NYSF is a program for Year 11 students. It's a 10-day residential program which is designed to give students a broader understanding of the study of science, career opportunities in science, engineering, technology, and mathematics. The program's been going for, I think, 35 years now. And the role of Rotary clubs is to support students in their application. The cost of the program next year is $3,250, and the role of Rotary is to support those students both financially and for all of the other reasons that we do other programs in Rotary, getting their families involved in Rotary, understanding Rotary, and we often do come out with, there's a number of Rotarians in our district who are Rotarians because their children did NYSF at some stage in the past. The degree to which a club sponsors a student is entirely up to the student. Is entirely up to the club. Some clubs will sponsor the student for all of the cost of the program, some for a small proportion. Most seem to support kids for about half of the cost of the program. Once students have participated, they come back to the club, explain and share their experience, and become ambassadors in their schools so that the NYSF program can continue. all that said, NYSF is going through a real difficulty at the moment. As many of you will know, last year with the bushfires, one program was terminated halfway through, and a second program didn't get off the ground at all. A number of families were reimbursed, and whilst I think we all thought that was going to come from insurance, it didn't. It actually came from the NYSF's reserve funds. So their financial strength has been weakened significantly, and with COVID, the program is going ahead at this stage. So normally applications would have closed by now. They've been extended into July, so there's still an opportunity for students to apply. We in our district normally get between 40 and 50 applicants. This year we have, I think, about 22, 23. We get a quota for about 25 to 30 students. And because schools haven't been in, those strong connections with schools haven't been able to connect to kids. With what's happening in Victoria, we just don't know what's going to happen with the NYSF, but we're all assuming that it's going to go ahead. The best thing that Rotary can do at the moment is to get out there and connect with schools, and that's suddenly just become a lot more difficult. So we understand that that may or may not happen as well as it does or it has in the past. So if there's any way that you're connected with one of your local schools and can get the message out there about NYSF, that would be absolutely terrific. There will be a change in the way in which funding is paid, and it's all as a result of insurance. Normally invoices are sent to clubs to pay and families reimburse Rotary clubs. That's going to be reversed, because if we do that, that means that the students will be covered by insurance, which they weren't this year, because the families, in a sense, are purchasing a product, Rotary's not. So thank you very much. That's the majority of the program. There's a lot more to say, but I think that'll do it for now. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for that, Steve. Yeah, there has been some difficulties in the past, but it is a really good program, and the students do have a really good experience doing it, don't they?
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. And if I can encourage you to go to the website, just type in NYSF on your favourite browser. There's a lot of student testimonials, photos. They really are engaged not just in the scientific and technical aspects, laboratory visits. The social aspect is very good. A lot of kids, not a lot, but a significant proportion of the kids can sometimes be withdrawn and shy, and NYSF really brings them out and feeling really comfortable with like-minded students. Often some of these kids struggle to connect socially, and NYSF's an excellent environment for them.
I know at my Rotaract club, we sponsored a student last year, and I think she did really well at the Canberra NYSF, that she then went on to the London National London Science Forum, I think. So there's a lot of opportunities coming from it.
Yeah, there are, Rob. There's a number of international science forums of which NYSF is connected to. Some students have gone on to Germany, United States, and the United Kingdom. But really, the whole idea is to understand what opportunities are there for me. And we do have a lot of students who go thinking about that they want to do one thing, and they come back and they've completely changed their mind and they want to get into something else because they've heard an inspirational speaker or been involved in a laboratory visit. And this is really high-powered stuff. It's not unusual for students to be speaking with Nobel laureates, to be involved with video conferences with very high-powered and significant scientific organisations around the world. So it's top shelf.
That's really great. Thanks for that, Steve.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you.
So next we have the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. Nigel, are you there?
There we go. You've got me? Yes.
G'day, Nigel. Tell us about Ryla.
Okay, so Ryla is fundamentally a 6-day youth leadership award program for 18 to 28-year-olds. We do stray above 28, but that's fundamentally what it's about. And I think you're all probably reasonably familiar with it. We have very much the focus on learning around leadership, teamwork, personal development, and projects. So that's fundamentally what it's about. The last one was pretty successful. We moved from a 3-day program, a 2.5-day program, to a 6-day program. And that was a big step forward for our district. We also restructured the way that we were delivering Ryla. So we've moved from it being a club-based program to a district-based program, but with the fundamental delivery being handed over to Rylarians. So we had past members of Ryla, leaders from within Ryla, and formed a committee with a chair, Simon Varvarek, who had had some leadership experience in other district Rylas. And we basically put that group in charge of delivering the last Ryla with Rotary support. And that's how a number of other districts do it, and that proved very successful. We had 6 days of training prior to the delivery of the last Ryla for those people, and for a wider group of Ryla leaders. So we had around 10 Ryla leaders. We've got about 5 on the board, and then another 5 Ryla leaders who have come in to support the delivery of Ryla. So all of that training took place, and then a lot of project management and planning went into it, and then we delivered our Ryla. What we didn't have last year was a Rotary board to support, or Rotary committee to support that process. But this year, I think following the success and clubs seeing that, hey, this is a working model, suddenly we have a Rotary board who've come in to support not the delivery of Ryla, but the oversight of Ryla, and to support Rotary's involvement in Ryla. So to take the message out to Rotary clubs, it's not an insignificant cost per Rylarian to deliver. It's around $1,000 a head that clubs sponsor for the 6-day program, but we're turning into a more significant involvement, I guess, for Rotary clubs, rather than to just have the attendance and have someone come to them for sponsorship, and then to be sponsored, and then to come back to make a report. We've looked to then take it onto a project basis, so that Rylarians are more involved across the year, rather than simply attending Ryla and then it's all over. And that's moved pretty successfully. We've just not last weekend, the weekend before, delivered a lot of clothing up to Bairnsdale for bushfire relief people, and it's been the winter clothing that many Rotary clubs have been involved in. The club stopped, but we were asked to keep going, and we collected quite a bit of stuff and delivered it down to Bairnsdale, and we had about 80% of the Rylarians, I guess, involved in developing up that project and delivering that project. So that was good. Obviously, we haven't got a starting date for the next Ryla, just like everybody else has. And we had in mind to deliver Ryla in January coming. We've now tentatively postponed that to the following January because COVID is getting no better. So we've allowed ourselves plenty of time. We do really want to do it in a January because we feel that that's probably a very good time for young people to be involved in doing it. The young people involved are often in university or apprenticeships or in work, and January is not a bad time of year to get them to come away. So that's when we're scheduling. In the interim, because we've got a RILA committee of young people who want to be involved, they're starting to develop some further activities to engage Rilarians and Rotary clubs for the rest of, from now until the next January. So they're starting a program of, they're calling them Rotary Youth Talks. So that'll be an online program using presumably Zoom, and just engaging young people and inviting in Rotarians and Rotaractors and clubs to participate in that program with them. So they're just sort of pulling that together at the moment. The Rotary Committee that has come together is about 11 of us, and we have been meeting not that frequently, every couple of months, just to oversight what's going on. The main function of that committee is very much going to be around communicating with Rotary clubs the commitments and that's required, and the funding side, so as to bring Rotary clubs comfortable with engaging with Rilarians on a slightly different longer term basis. And this has been tied into a certificate in project management practice. We've had bumps along the way in getting that up, but it's there with us. And Holmes Glen TAFE are involving themselves. And the idea is that Rilarians who are learning about leadership and learning about project management will have the opportunity to complete, alongside doing their project work, post-RILA, the necessary assessment work to provide them with a certificate in project management, project management practice, I better be accurate. So that's moved in that direction. That's been a slow battle to actually, there are bumps on the, discover there are bumps on the road with setting up projects, but hey, and that is now more firmly in place, and we are, and participants are gathering evidence from RILA and from the work that they've done on their project moving forward to actually gain assessment for that qualification. I'll be very, very happy when we get to the point of having a graduation. At this stage, we've got, I think, about 22 of the 28 or 29 Rilarians who are involved in that. I think that about covers it for the moment.
All right. Thanks for that, Nigel. Yeah. So we've had some feedback from previous RILAs in that the clubs really wanted more ongoing participation from the participants after RILA, which is why we've switched to that Certificate 4 model, because to complete the Certificate 4, the participants then have to do ongoing projects and interactions with their club, which is what Nigel was talking about with the bushfire donations. And from that, we've had a lot of Rilarians from the RILA just gone wanting to establish their own Rotaract club and do other programs like that. So that's been really encouraging.
I think that the amazing thing for me has been the way that the Rilarians have coalesced into a very close group. With the 3-day, 2.5-day program, they kind of hung together a little bit, but it didn't last. What has been to me totally amazing about this group is the way that they have stuck together, and that with bumps in the road around the Certificate 4 program, they're still there wanting to do it, and still keen and enthusiastic, and have developed a burning desire to be involved in volunteering. And I think that that is a really huge outcome.
That's great. Thanks for the update, Nigel. So finally, we have Rotaract. Rotaract is not a youth program of Rotary. Rotaract is actually an independent equal partner to Rotary, but aimed at a younger demographic. But we can still get an update from what they've been up to here. Last year, we had 2 district Rotaract representatives, Chris and Tom, and they're just going to give us a quick update on what their clubs have been up to in the last 12 months. Chris, are you online?
Yeah, sure. Good morning.
Hey, Chris. So tell us about Peninsula Rotaract Club.
So Peninsula Rotaract Club's based in Frankston, as most of you probably know. We've got about sort of 16 to 18 active members at the moment, so we're tracking along pretty well. It's been a quiet last couple of months, but previously, in what was it, sort of the 8 to 9 months of the rest of the year, we're pretty busy. We got down to Anzac Day barbecues there. We sent some members up to the Australian Rotaract Conference on the Gold Coast when we were allowed back outside in planes. And we did a lot of environmental things as well. So we went and cleaned up some local areas and things like that, picking up rubbish. And we had a lot of social events too. So I think one of the main things that Rotaract clubs like to do is really engage their members just by being social. So we do a lot of questionnaires and polls and things like that to see what everyone's interested in. And one of the main reasons why people join Rotaract is for the social aspect of it. So everyone gets along really well. Everyone's got a large group of friends in Rotaract. So we feel that if everyone gets along well, it inspires people to go do projects together. So yeah, that's sort of...
Continuing online recently?
Yeah, we've been meeting online, so it's a little bit harder. It's slowed progress down a lot. But I'm sure, like all the Rotary clubs here, we're doing what we can, playing lots of games, quizzes, helping each other out. And we've had members running little projects and talks on things that they're passionate about, teaching others about different things. So yeah, it's been good.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. And Tom, are you there? Tom is from the Casey Cardinia Rotaract Club.
Yeah, so our district, I'd say pretty lucky for Rotaract to have the clubs so close together in a district that's quite wide. So both Casey and Peninsula have a pretty good relationship in terms of socials and getting together, and we do change over together, joint events and such like that. Past year for Casey Cardinia Rotaract Club's been pretty good. At the start, yeah, there was a lot of focus on kind of working bees and helping out from all the fires that happened in Gippsland and in Victoria. So that was a lot of work we were doing. Obviously, towards the end of the year, it's been a bit more virtual. Clubs had meetings online. The meetings, while in person, were pretty chill and pretty fun. It's also carried across to the virtual environment where we join the meeting. We get through the agenda and then we kind of want to socialize and play games afterwards. Obviously, a few different activities we can do online together. The clubs also ran a Harry Potter trivia night during COVID, which was pretty successful. So I think from that, it was interesting kind of club working virtually. We did have a few members try and hub at different places. So we had 2 people go to someone's house, 2 people go to another person's house, and we can kind of organize the event while we're all separated, but still try and stick together and do that. I think, yeah, that's about it. The club's obviously staying online, moving into the end of this year as well. So.
That's great. Thanks, Tom. And I'll just point out that this year, Peninsula Rotaract Club turned 10 years old, and I think Casey Cardinia turned 5 years old.
Yeah, that's correct. Oh, another thing I wanted to say as well is just to show the work that the district have done in terms of youth. I know our club hadn't had too much to do with Ryla in the past, but last year there was a lot of activities, and even our president last year was the vice program coordinator, second to Simon. So I think the work that the district are doing to kind of include and link all the youth programs is doing well, and that can especially be seen in our club.
Great, thanks, Tom. So definitely the Rotaract clubs are going strongly, and we're trying to get a Rotaract club established in Latrobe Valley. So that's going slowly, but still there. All right. Finally, I'd just like to encourage you all to get involved in the youth programs. Hopefully you've seen a youth program or many that you really like and you want your club to be involved in. As we said, like Barry needs some people on his committee, Nigel does as well. If you want to get involved in these youth programs, there's definitely a place for you to help out on the running of the program, or if you want to establish one of the in-school programs, Josie's your person to talk to. She can give you all sorts of tips. I'm from the Peninsula Rotaract Club, so I've got a good experience with the youth programs. That's my email address. Feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to take some questions.
Rob, perhaps not so much a question as a comment. I love the idea of the pathway on the website and the connection between the programs. And listening to the other chairs today talking about it, I can see immediate connections between Youth Exchange and almost every other one of those youth programs. I particularly love the NYSF stuff that Steve talked about. Obviously, I have high connections with RILA. I've been involved in the past. But Myrna is the obvious one where we've got the opportunity to create an alumnus who are people who see Interact as the way into Rotary, and I think that's what we should be building on. So well done, guys. Thank you. And Di, I loved your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Barry. It's something I haven't touched on, but in the background, we are trying to build a database of alumnus of all of the programs so that we can then market the other programs to them. That's a work in progress, but it's something that will be happening in the future. Nigel, you see you're raising your hand.
Yeah, in terms of youth exchange, I've been involved. I've done now 4 RILAs, and in the third RILA, I think it was, John Reeve brought youth exchange participants into the RILA program, and it was not too difficult to do because of the because there weren't so many, but it did have a little bit of a problem around compliance with working with children and so forth, so there were ramifications to it. But leaving that aside, it was a very successful strategy at the time. They really got involved in it and enjoyed it, and it worked very well. So I just mentioned that in passing. If we can overcome the insurance and working with children aspects of it, it was a very successful way to integrate them into Rotary activities. And I'd also just say that Rotaract has been a huge, this year has been a huge support and component of RILA, and enormous, and has significantly made the development of a RILA board possible. And I think that, so the integration of these programs, I think, is really important. Certainly the pathways that you've developed in the concept of pathways is pretty vital. I really do believe that Rotaract clubs, 3 Rotaract clubs ought to be 6, and that the developments through our youth programs needs very much to facilitate that process.
That's right, Nigel. That's what the pathway is about, getting them involved in the next program, and then into Rotaract, and then into Rotary.
It's probably more a comment than a question. Over the last 6 to 7 years since I've been involved in Rotary, I've noticed, and becoming more so recently, that the applicants for all of the programs are more and more girls rather than boys. And I just wonder, with the exception of Moona, I'd have to say that I think that we've probably had 80% applications from girls. Now, I don't know whether that is, I'm questioning whether that has some implications for these programs for the future, and whether we should be doing anything about it to try and even out the gender sort of situation for programs. I know that a lot of clubs are still struggling to get women involved in Rotary, so therefore it's probably a good thing from that point of view. But for those of us who have the majority of women members, it probably doesn't look too good for the future. So just wondering whether anybody's got any comments about why we've got so many women. You know, Youth Exchange, for example, was very much all women orientation, etc., going back over the last few years. Just a comment more than anything, but what do you think, Rob?
Yeah, definitely the most recent cohort of Youth Exchange was very female dominated, but I don't know about all the other programs. It's not something I've noticed considerably, but I'll look at it again. Do any of the other program chairs have a comment on that? Steve does.
Yeah, I think you're right, Libby. NYSF is now dominated by girls. Probably 3 years ago it was 50-50. But yeah, the boys' applications are definitely dropping off. They're far more enthusiastic. They're a little bit more mature. They want to seize opportunities. I don't know what you do about it, because I can remember working in schools 25 years ago, looking at the other side of the equation and saying, how do we get girls involved in things? Well, we've been very successful, and that's fantastic. It's really good what society has been able to do in the last 25 years. But yeah, I think you're right, Libby. It's probably, we need to, start thinking the other way. They're just not mature enough.
Di, did you have something to say?
We see some amazing young people at our MUNA, and I'd have to say that I think it's fairly evenly split. And the winners from last year were 2 girls, and the runner-up were 2 boys, and the team that would have come third, or did come third, was a boy and a girl. So there's a really nice even spread with MUNA, and like finds like. So if they're interested, they'll join. But yeah, I would be keeping my eye on that gender balance in the future.
Nigel?
On my application list were girls, so pretty much 50-50. And I think that because there's 50% or more boys on the male on the RILA board, I think probably influences it in some ways. But I think really, yeah, we're managing to hold on to a fairly good 50-50 split in RILA, and that's certainly been, I guess, something I've probably been a little bit aware of in the background. But it's who applies that counts. But RILA seems to draw the boys in, I guess, with the outdoor activity side of it and so forth.
Thank you, Nigel. Does anyone else have a question? Debbie?
Yeah, I noticed on your program that you didn't include the ConocoPhillips science experience on there. I think that that's something that perhaps directly leads into the National Youth Science Forum.
Yeah, that's something I'll look at including. I don't know a lot about that program immediately, but Steve's raising his hand. Steve, you want to say
Rob,
something?
I'm glad that Deb has brought that up, because I had the privilege of sitting in on one of Steve's selection teams about 5 years ago, I think, and there were 8 of the successful students for National Science Forum who had done the ConocoPhillips program. It's a great entry for year 9 and 10 students, and only costs the individual or the club $350. It's a 3-day, and it's run in Victoria by 10 universities. A marvellous STEM introduction at that level. And I think Steve would agree with that. I hope he might say something about it too.
Steve?
Yeah, it is a great program, and it's well worth doing. My understanding, I could be wrong, there is no formal relationship between Rotary and the ConocoPhillips organisation, so that might be one reason behind it. I must admit I'm not entirely sure about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So, for example, with NYSF, there's a district chair, and we're all connected to each other. We meet online, we meet face to face. It's a very strong relationship between Rotary and the NYSF. So I think if clubs want to do it, it's probably more about being able to connect with your schools, because I think the applications and how students are notified is through the schools. If someone wants to correct me, I'm more than happy to.
Helen's raising her hand.
You're absolutely correct, Steve. There is no technical relationship, but ConocoPhillips and its predecessor have advertised Rotary every year since 1989, when that program commenced. And I know we've had 20 clubs in our district that have had a regular support or selection. And it's just a marvellous program.
Helen, did you have something to say?
Just similar to what Don said, the material, and I've got the material about it in my hand at the moment, has got Rotary there, and on the back it says Rotary clubs sponsor many students, promote the program and participate actively in organising programs and provide social activities. So there's certainly Rotary is included in their communication.
Thanks for that, Helen and Don. It's something I'll look at including in the future. As I said, I don't know much about it, but I'll definitely do some research on it. Does anyone else have something?
Well, Barnett Roberts from Stonewall.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm just talking, as Steve, interesting point, you were talking about the ConocoPhillips, and I've got the brochure as well. How do we know what information is being sent to schools? Are they aware of the program? Do we know where it's gone, and how do we follow up? And I would suggest that's probably a broader question as well with some of the other programs. How do we help Rotary as a district contact people and have a list of the latest contacts at the schools? And how do we know what's gone out so we can follow up? But I've got one brochure, one booklet. I don't know what our schools would have received. Well, what can we do to strengthen that process of information flow?
So partly, I'd like the individual clubs to build relationships with the schools in their area. That's by trying to get Interact or Early Act established. And then you can say, look, we've got this set of programs that include NYSF and RILA and MUNA that will benefit your students going into the future. Some of the programs like MUNA actually contact some of the schools directly. Di, do you want to talk on that?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I updated the database for all the secondary schools in the District 9820 in February this year and sent out letters to specific year coordinators. And yeah, I'm happy to share all that with Robert so that other clubs can access that information if they wish.
Thanks, Di. And that's sort of what I was talking about at the start, that all of these programs are operating in silos and we don't quite know what each other's doing, but we want to establish this cross collaboration. And the pathway concept is something that you can go to schools, that your club can take to a school and say, here's all the programs we've got. We'd like to establish a relationship with you. Any other comments? Nigel's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this can actually go outside the our own district. So 9810 with the previous RILA came in and asked, can we join in your RILA? And in the next RILA, they are quite keenly involved to be to have the RILA from across the two districts. So you mentioned silos. We are siloing ourselves somewhat in terms of talking about our district. The districts around us are actually, if they know what we're doing, are quite interested and in some ways interested in making a contribution. Back to you.
Thanks, Nigel.
I just wanted to say that the information that we get for things like National Youth Science Forum, ConocoPhillips and things like that often gets sent to Rotary clubs to distribute with their connected schools or their local schools. So just to kind of answer Alad's question, that the information he's got on the ConocoPhillips science experience, the schools won't have that. I work in a school, so I kind of know what they get and what they don't get, and I know they don't get those things often. Yeah.
So this is something that you can go back to your individual clubs with and say, we want to target the schools in our local area. You can show them the pathways, show them all of the programs we've got, and then build that relationship between your club and the schools and other community groups. Tim.
Thanks, Rob, and look, thank you to all the presenters today. That was really good, and I've seen so many comments flying backwards and forwards. I'd like to pass to G. Mark then to sum it up. Thanks again, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Rob, and thank you to your team, Rob. All I can say is, wow, amazing. Doesn't Rotary support some absolutely fantastic youth programs? That pathway that I know Rob has been working on now for over 12 months is going to be an amazing tool for everyone. Rob and I have had discussions, and we are looking at getting at least one of those pathways boards and brochures available in each of your clusters at least. When that's going to happen, just watch this space. We are working towards that. If you want one for yourself, your own club, by all means, let Rob or myself know, and we will certainly be happy to make that something that you can get your hands on. It is really good to see in the last 12 to 18 months again how our youth focus has been reinvigorated. Just about every program has come along in leaps and bounds. You know, you can tell that by the starting of a couple of Interact clubs, an Early Act club almost there, right through to our great involvement with all the programs along the way and getting kids and that into Rotaract. I'll also echo the comments about the youth are really, you know, what we're there for. We have been told to impart knowledge and skills and that, and this is exactly what we're doing here. But it takes a lot of work, and particularly Youth Exchange and Ryla, they need our support. So please go around to your clubs and ask people to get involved. It is a lot of grunt work, I know, without a lot of the glory, but if we don't get those things in place, a lot of these programs are going to fall down. From my brief involvement with Youth Exchange, I know how much work Barry is basically doing with an incredibly small committee. We all want the programs to succeed. I'm asking you, go to your clubs, please, excuse me, and get you know, people involved. We need the people in the back rooms to help and support. A lot of our programs currently, yes, we're in a very fluid position. Some are running, some are not running. Now is the time to go back to your clubs, like we said earlier, and start planning, start preparing, start learning more about these programs. Every one of these youth chairs is available any night via Zoom. Bring them into your meetings and let them talk to you about it and see and hear the impact that our programs have on our kids of the future. get your governance, get your compliance and that all in place now, so that as soon as that door is open and we can get back out there, we can hit the ground running. Let's not sit back and wait for things to happen. Let's be proactive and let's start making things happen so that we can really make a difference. So Rob, again, thank you to you and your team. Amazing amount of work you guys have been done, and I just personally applaud you for that massive amount of work, and keep it up.